Welcome, RED 425. It's my privilege to introduce our special guest, Jason Bonnet. He is a good friend of mine. We graduated the MRED together, and he is currently SVP at Brookfield Development. So he's doing a lot of great projects, and he's here to kind of tell you guys and the class about his journey and career and life in real estate. So welcome, Jason.
Thank you, Professor Joe.
All right, so Jason, tell me how you got into real estate.
Wow, it's a great story. Everyone has their own. The unique thing about real estate is everyone has their unique story and how they get there. And there's really no one right way or correct way to get into real estate, and especially development. On my end, as a kid, my dad was a contractor. And so during spring break or summers when I needed extra cash, I would volunteer to go out onto construction sites, swing hammers, pull wire, do whatever I can to make an extra buck. My dream, I wanted to be the next George Lucas or Steven Spielberg, right? I wanted to make the next Star Wars. Maybe that's why I ended up at USC to be inspired there, but of course for real estate and at the MRED. But yeah, so when I was at UNC, followed my passion of film and trying to create stories. What I learned from that, of course, is after graduating from undergrad, I couldn't land a film job. It was during a recession. So I ended up back at home and found myself working back on construction sites again. And found an opportunity opening up retail stores. So I was actually working on the retail side of the business just because I understood construction. From there, I caught the real estate bug and I thought, okay, I'm about 22 years old. I could do development on my own. So
and how did that go? A lot of these students, you know, have aspirations to be a little more entrepreneurial. Can you touch on starting out kind of as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, starting out as an entrepreneur, just driving around. So I was living in the DC area at that time, and I just drive around the city and I'd see dilapidated buildings and just my imagination running, thinking, oh, that'd be amazing to renovate. And it can be to take a row house and convert it to, let's say, 3 or 4 units. Or take an empty lot and maybe it's a couple of townhouses, or just take a rundown building and just gut it and repurpose it to retail on the first floor, office or apartments above it, right? So just using my imagination and then going around and asking people for help, right? Because knowing that I didn't know anything or I didn't know much at the time, and it's a learning process. So asking people for help, whether it's other contractors, lenders for money, having my hand out, asking for money from friends and family, and just learning by doing. And whether you call it courage or just not smart enough to know any better, or the risk profile back then is I didn't really have much to lose as a 20-something, early 20s, that I was okay and comfortable going out on the limb and trying something new. And so that kind of got me hooked and got a few projects under my belt doing that.
And then that's about the time I met you and you came into my life, and we became close through the USC MRED program.
That's right.
Which we are both alumni of.
That's right.
Fight on. So that was a big part. So just kind of briefly explain how that changed and directed your life as far as real estate.
Sure. So I was working on these smaller projects and always dreamed and had the ambition to work on mega projects, really have scale to change a neighborhood or even a city. And so fortunate to have relationships with mentors who advised me, you should maybe consider going back to school, right? So as an entrepreneur, running your own business, working on small projects, really to take the leap from that kind of entry point in real estate development, doing it on your own, to working in more of an institutional environment, the transition is usually easier when you go through a graduate program. And of course, I wanted to go to the best graduate program for real estate development in the world, which is USC. Fortunate enough to get in there and land in the same class as Professor Lutz. And through that program, that was a game changer. Through the friends I made, you and our other cohorts, not only learning from the professors and learning from the adjunct professors, but learning from your friends as well. Everyone was coming from different backgrounds and different experiences, and all of us sharing, whether in the classroom or at the 9-0, we were all learning at one time or another. So it was really a fun time of geeking out on real estate, and a few drinks as well.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. And sticking with academics, you also went through a program at Harvard, if you want to touch on that and kind of some things you learned there.
Sure. So now being 10 years out from the USC program, well, I guess 9, let's not age ourselves too quickly, at a point in my career where it's, well, what's the next step, right? So early on, you'll find yourself working very closely on the projects, being a project manager, leading the project, leading teams that way. And then as you move up, you're leading more teams or people that are managing the projects. And I'm finding myself in an area where it's more at the corporate level. And so this was an executive MBA program that gets you smarter and exposes you more to corporate finance, corporate accounting. Yeah, exciting stuff. Macroeconomics, ethics. Ethics is very important to think about it more at the corporate level. So yes, at this stage, you're kind of stepping further away from the real estate or being directly associated with the real estate, but nonetheless, you're part of a greater team or a village that influences multiple projects in multiple cities. And that's kind of the reason for going through that program. And of course, to make friends, because you can never have enough friends in your network. And I think that's what the brilliant Sonia at USC said is when you come to USC, your MRED, I remember this at orientation, first thing you're going to get is your PhD in networking.
Yes, and network's important, especially in real estate. So that network kind of led you, I know, after your own thing, led you to an internship at Core, and then I believe you mentored under Stan Ross, and that led you to Forest City, which then got bought by Brookfield. But can you tell me a little bit about that journey through Forest City and where that took you?
Yeah, so again, I mentioned going to USC was a life changer. One, because now I've been friends with Professor Lutz for a decade, and he's the greatest guy ever. But they're just who you meet and the network you create, and how supportive the network is. It's pretty amazing. So fortunate Stan Ross to go through that mentorship program, and he went to a board meeting at Forest City and handed my resume around because he knew that was my number one choice to go to work after school. And it's people taking a chance on you and supporting you. And so forever in his debt, rest in peace. But yeah, I got my foot in the door there, and that's kind of in real estate, you're going to have to fight your way in, and you're going to have to prove yourself every day. And whenever you have a chance to get your foot in the door, immediately put your other foot in the door and prove to yourself that you always belong in that room. And that's kind of how things started at Forest City. Got to work closely with the Ratner family for about 6 years. Worked on the Yards project. In my slide, I can show a rendering of the Yards project, this mega waterfront project that's next to the Washington Nationals baseball stadium, world champs still, and the Washington Navy Yard. And so that it's kind of like my passion or my dream coming true, where the whole reason of going to USC is to transition from smaller projects to these larger projects. But still, even though you're working on larger projects, you can hold on to your entrepreneurial spirit and kind of bring your personality every day, even if it is in a corporate environment. The teams you work on are still small, and you can still have influence on the people and the projects.
So that spirit has since led you through some acquisitions, corporate acquisitions, to now be at Brookfield as the Senior Vice President of Development. So could you explain to some of the students what that entails? What is your day-to-day? What are your duties? What are your responsibilities?
Yeah, so as a senior vice president, you're overseeing an office or a region or multiple projects or teams. So as I mentioned before, as a manager, you're more focused on the day-to-day tasks or the projects that are on your plate. And as VP or senior VP, I guess it just means you're a little bit older, but you're working and managing the people who then are working on the project. So you've got a number of projects to work on and a number of people to work with on those projects as well. And then you also get the chance to work on different initiatives. So you get to think more strategically about things. So instead of working with an architect, I still get to do that and work on one building and designing it and visioning it. You can also step back and think strategically, what's the future of multifamily? What's the future of housing? How does technology, then the future technology, get incorporated with living in an apartment or in an office space? So again, you can kind of geek out and kind of brainstorm or just daydream about things that could change the future of design or the built environment. And so there's a lot of that, a lot of imagination. That's the fun thing.
Yeah, so your imagination, your creativity, your drive led you to Brookfield, which there's lots of things going on. Let's move to your slide and we can kind of showcase what
Sure.
you've been working on and show the students some of the projects that you've completed to date, as well as what's going on in the future. So Jason, so those that don't know who or what Brookfield is and what they do, go ahead and explain it to them.
Yeah, so Brookfield Properties is, I guess simply put, the largest landlord and owner of office real estate in the world. And then we also own a few other different food groups, as we call it, or product types. This specifically is BAM, as we call it, or Brookfield Asset Management. Brookfield Properties is a business unit under BAM, but BAM has assets under management, whether that's real estate or renewable energies or infrastructure or private equity, that total approximately $500 billion. So we're managing a lot of money or a lot of assets that are valued to a lot of money, which total about $500 billion. That's kind of the very simple way to put it. Here's the food groups I was mentioning. So office, of course, is the biggest food group. You can see how many properties in millions of square feet globally. Retail, hospitality, hotels, student housing, self-storage, and then there's multifamily apartments, and then of course logistics, which is the industrial side. Specifically where I work is the development company, so it's Brookfield Properties Development. And what we do is we act as a provider or a service to the owners or the investors to develop, whether it's a rundown building, which is adaptive reuse, or a dirt lot that's in an urban environment, or maybe even it's a suburban area, right? We have a land and housing division, so we're home builders as well. And we manage the entitlements, the upzoning, getting that approved, creating value there. Also managing the design, and then the construction, and then the lease up of whatever product type that we're developing to stabilization. Once we stabilize it on the development side, we hand over the keys to the management team, and they'll manage it for the life of the property, whether we hold it or we sell it to another investor owner.
So on those product types, do you happen to have a favorite, and why?
Oh, it's like, who's your favorite kid? Or let's see. I would say I have a couple favorites. I'll start with the one, the yards that's in DC, which I think is in this slide. There we go.
So real quickly, just to understand, obviously you've done a lot of mixed use work, which incorporates all product types. So you can kind of explain to everybody how that works well. How do you create mixed use in a livable environment?
Sure. So we believe in the value of placemaking, and placemaking is important when there's diversity, and it's diversity of the people interacting and in the environment itself. So I think the most vibrant places in the world are ones where, and I know this phrase is overused, so I hate to say, but live, work, play, right? It's where can you live, walk out of your apartment or your house, walk down the street, go to the grocery store, walk through a park, grab a drink outside with friends. Oh, and then, hey, maybe your office is there where you work, right? That's truly mixed use when you're combining multiple product types. And by the proximity of these product types next to each other, you're creating additional value than if it was just a standalone apartment.
Yes, you're really building a sense of place, a place people want to be, a place people want to live, work, and play.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So here is the perfect example. And this is after USC moved back to DC to work on the Yards project. 48 acres right on the waterfront, multi-billion-dollar project. The beauty of this is it has office, has retail, it has parks, it has multifamily, it has hotel, and it's a former Navy yard. So it has old buildings that are there that you can repurpose. So we were officing there in an old lumber shed. And of course, the best name to call what used to be a lumber shed is the lumber shed building. So on the second floor, our offices were there in the middle of a park. And on the first floor was all restaurants. So at the end of the day, we'd just walk downstairs and there was a local ice cream shop. So cut the deal on that one. And our motto was always not necessarily to default to your Ben and Jerry's or your TCBYs or your Nationals. There's more character when you work with local businesses and bring the local businesses in to thrive in your local environment. It's what's authentic, right? People who live in that community want something that they can relate to, and the blandness of a Ben and Jerry's versus having someone that's a local person and a local business support is so much different in terms of the environment you create.
So besides wanting some ice cream right now, what you're saying is ultimately sometimes when you're thinking of ideas and naming and the big idea, it's right in front of you. For instance, the lumber yards building.
Yeah.
And really when you're looking for that tenant mix, look local, be creative, find that local environment and incorporate in your mixed use project.
That's right. That's right. And that's kind of it's simple to say, but it's logical, right? And I think some of the advice I would share is a lot of times it's just sitting there and listening to and hearing what people want. And the challenge is giving people what they want, and the people being the ones who either live in the community currently, or the future residents, or both. As a developer, you got to think you're coming into people's neighborhoods, people's homes, and you're changing it. And do you want to change it for the worse, which then makes everyone your enemy, or do you want to change it for the better, where then you're kind of creating even more community, you're adding value, and you're really doing something special. And then, yes, you're going to make some money doing it, but it's also going to make you feel good as well. Nothing is more satisfying than walking around the yards. And right before this, I was catching up with an architect I worked with back in DC, and he was showing me pictures of a building that just opened that I was working on 3.5 years ago before I moved out to San Francisco. And just seeing people walking around, of course, pre-COVID pictures, seeing people walking around, moving into the building, restaurants opening, and just it being activated and saying, hey, I had a part in this. It's intoxicating.
So then you moved after this magnificent project, moved to San Francisco, where you're currently located. The city that's also going through some dynamic changes. So as a developer, I know you spoke about how you transitioned the project in DC and the environment around there. Talk about San Francisco a little bit, what exactly they're going through as a city, how they're changing, and what their needs are, and how you're really meeting those needs as a developer and creating community with your project.
Yeah. So that's why I love San Francisco so much, because it's so damn hard to get anything approved here, develop here, and open it up. This project, 5M, Fifth and Mission, before I got here, was in entitlements for 8 years.
Wow.
And in a lawsuit. So some people questioned my intelligence of why would you go to a city that is a NIMBY, right? Not in my backyard, and work on a project that's been in a lawsuit for years and might ever get built. And I guess I'm stubborn, or I'm so optimistic. I think, hey, we can figure this out. If we have the right team, we have the right people working on it, we'll find a way for us to get past this, or resolve the issues that are at hand. Good news is we broke ground last summer. We're under construction. What you see here on the screen are renderings of, there's an office tower, as well as there's a small pocket park there. There's an apartment building that's being delivered over the 4 acres. The cool thing about this site, the San Francisco Chronicle building, it's an historic building. The newspaper staff is still there. That remains. Phase 2 is going to be a condo tower. So it's taking 4 acres of parking lots that really weren't doing much, and the San Francisco Chronicle building, and creating this place, going vertical and creating density and creating place. And I think the importance of what I was mentioning before of community, and when you're in a community to truly be part of that community, because if you're going to be called out anywhere for being false or not being part of the community, it'll be San Francisco. So you better show up and be real. If not, you're done. You're toast.
So on this particular project, what is your favorite piece that may create community for the local residents in the local environment? What are you adding to the flavor of the neighborhood?
Yes, there's so many little pieces and partnership. I guess I think it would be the partnerships that have been built through entitlements, but then we're also holding on to those relationships with nonprofits and other community groups that then when the place is open, they're actually activating it. And there's one, and this is in the Filipino Historic District, Cultural Heritage District in San Francisco. And so we've partnered with a number of Filipino groups. We've activated the site prior to construction called Undiscovered. And it was a pop-up Filipino night market with DJs, food, clothing, dancing, amazing. but it's going to be even better when the parks are open and the event comes back, and hopefully have a restaurant or two serving Filipino food. And I think holding on to the true ethos of the community and of the people that are already there and respecting that, and then giving them a new platform to then activate it, only strengthens and creates a differentiator for our project compared to, another project that's just a stale building that just has no personality whatsoever.
Yes, and lots of personality in this building. You have a historic piece that you had to maintain and preserve. We don't have enough time to get into all the challenges that probably presented you. You have office component, you have multifamily, and you have ground level retail. Can you talk about briefly how you expect those two work together, and ultimately kind of explain the basic program and what you're creating there with 5M?
Sure. So with the office tower, it's as you can see, approximately 648,000 square feet. We hope to sign a couple of anchor tenants to bring employees there. There's the multifamily building. Maybe some of the employees that work for the company that's there live in the apartments. There's affordable units as well, right? So the people working in the retail that surround the park, or maybe even manage and work in the park, live in the affordable units. So it creates its own ecosystem. There's a building we donated called the Dempster Building, where there's an arts stabilization trust called CAST that's in the building, as well as other nonprofits. So you have, and this is our vision from the get-go, is serendipitous collisions. And the serendipitous collision of which you don't get anymore, right? Being stuck at home on Zoom calls, but whether you're living there, working there, or walking across the park to eat your lunch or grabbing a drink, you'll run into different people, right? Someone from a nonprofit, someone who works at the newspaper, someone who works for a tech company. Maybe you strike up a conversation. Maybe you come up with the next brilliant idea. Square was founded at 5M, and it was tested in food trucks at 5M, and we still, prior to the shutdown, we had food trucks there. So our theme, or I guess our thesis of serendipitous collisions, is proven by something like a tech company, Square, going from startup on our site to now multi-billion-dollar public company.
So serendipitous collision is your big idea. Wow, what a word.
Yeah.
What a word. And just briefly, how does that, drive your daily decisions? When I mean, we're trying to explain how ideas get created, but how you really go back to those ideas as a mindset, as an outline, when you're stuck in a position where you need to decide how the design's going to go. How do you really go back to that as kind of your guideline and your theme?
Yeah, great question. It's your beacon, right? And every project, every development you work on should have a vision, should have that thesis, or that's that beacon that always guides you and guides a team. And it could be as simple as two words: serendipitous collisions. At the yards, our inspiration was usually a city. Like, this building is my love for New York. This building is my love for Paris, and just that guiding you. But once you have that guiding light to help you, that vision, then everything follows all decisions from that vision permeates throughout the design decisions, even to the leasing agent who's leasing the retail space or the apartments. You don't have that, and you're making decisions just based on opinion or personal opinion, then you're going to have a lot of different opinions in a room. It's not going to feel the same. There'll be conflicts. You'll lose time, and it won't be a cohesive environment at the end of the day. And that's the biggest thing. Don't once you realize that your personal opinion or aesthetic is guiding you, or you see someone else doing that, you know you're probably going to make the wrong decision, and more wrong decisions will follow. You have a guiding principle from the get-go, you'll always be on the right page. And if there's ever a dispute, you can just go back to that to help inform your decision.
Great. So that beacon is a great analogy. So speaking of analogies, speaking of advice for the students, what is one or two pieces of advice as we conclude that you'd want to tell the students if you were in their position, knowing what you know now?
Sure. I'll give three pointed advice that I follow. One is resilience, and I think that's there's not much that needs to be said in this day and age in terms of resilience. But back in grad school, trying to look for a job, right? Professor Lutz and we graduated in 2011, and that was, right after the Great Recession. And it took about 20 or 30 no's or rejections before I landed. Even though I landed at my number one choice, it took 10 months of chasing that and resiliency of trying to get my foot in the door. And during that time, going out in interviews and just saying, nope, you're not good enough. Nope, we don't like you. Nope, you won't be a good fit. And just believe in yourself and be resilient. And there'll be ups and downs, but keep pushing through that.
So you get no's even when you're the rock star of our graduating class, right?
Nope, number two behind you, of course. The second piece of advice I'd say is figure out what you're passionate about, right? So I was passionate about film, wanted to be a filmmaker, didn't realize that being in development, you create a story. It's like you're creating doing a project is like creating a film. Director, producer, your actors are the people in it. You're creating the stage. Whether you're in front of the camera or behind the camera, it's almost like a film. And what's better than a great film is a great development project. It could be music, right? If you love music, being a developer is like being the maestro. You're not necessarily talented enough to play any of the instruments, but you get to collaborate with all the experts who play the instruments. And hopefully at the end of the day, you've got a great song. The third piece of advice is just to be present, to always be mindful, to be present, and to have awareness of what's going on in the present day, and to listen. Because I think the strength of and the ability to combat issues, problems, conflicts is about listening to the other party, and especially in these communities that are harder to develop in. The more you listen, the more you're present in part of that community, the more success you'll find today and also tomorrow, and you'll build trust in that as well.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. So Jason, thank you for your time. We look forward to seeing your projects finishing up and touring 5M someday. And thank you for giving back to your alma mater, and fight on.
Fight on.